Hello and welcome to Leagues Behind, the vodcast of the Arena Gauntlet League that looks back at previous tournament offerings and picks apart their rule sets to find the treasures and call out the trash in the hopes that it makes us better and more reflective tournament designers moving ahead. I'm Christopher York. I'm the founder of the AGL and host of this vodcast, and my special guest today, back for I think his fourth appearance, is XLC member and community stalwart Johnny Mariani. Welcome, Johnny.
Hey, Chris. Thanks for having me, as always.
I've called you today to talk about something very specific and something very contentious. Those who can see the visual of the giant shield hovering just beside my head maybe know that today we're going to talk about Baldur's Gate, or what we colloquially called Brawlder's Gate on the server. So where do we begin, Johnny? Let's go through the rules to start. What were the broad outlines that we decided at the time would hold for this tournament? What were our design goals as fleshed out in the rules?
Well, the goal was to try a brawl league instead of a normal sealed league. And it seems totally weird. And I had to think about, like, why did we think of this? Why was this an idea? And there's a couple of key reasons why we did it. Back in the paper days, we had done a Commander League where everyone bought a copy of the new Precon, whichever deck they wanted. And when they lost the game, they either added a pack to their deck or they bought a $5 single, up to $5 single.
Right.
And their decks could evolve like that. And that league was really popular and really fun. And then I think the other thing going on here is, like a lot of our other league designs, is like, what do we have available to us? What are the tools at our disposal? And we have this limitation of the arena rules enforcement,
Right.
where we can't. There's a lot of things we can't do because the arena just won't allow it. And I think you're going to get to that when you do Plane Chase, which is coming up. But so I think in this case, the one way you can modify the rules on Arena is by playing Brawl.
Yes.
Because it enforces 25 life, has a command zone, and so I think it's, for us, like, this is something we can do. Let's give it a shot.
Yeah, I that's my recollection of it as well. We're kind of like, we were dredging up kind of all the things that we'd missed from in-store play. And I agree with you. So some of my favorite tournaments were everybody starting out with one of the four pre-cons, and you could choose ahead of time which one you're going to get, and then just opening packs or buying what we now call silver bullets, right, which is a targeted purchase of one card to fit the synergy and strategy of your deck. And modding out those decks was just such a lot of fun. We all started out from similar or the same starting position, but there was infinite variety, let's say, in how those decks played out and the care that people took in curating their ads. And I remember these tournaments very fondly. I was always on the pack end of the strategy spectrum because my idea was just give me the most cards possible, give me the most options. Maybe if I luck out and win the lottery, I can do multiple substitutions. Especially if I have a 3-color commander, I've got pretty good odds of hitting on multiple cards. And you were of the mind that the silver bullet strategy was the way to go. So this already brings me to a couple of points of contention that I know that our audience are they're going to want to hear about. A lot of people hear the word brawl and they cringe. They can't stand it. Why do you think people have this reaction to brawl? And do you think ultimately it was a good idea for us to make a dedicated brawl league?
Yeah, so I think the problem with Brawl is it's kind of a bit of a bastard format that Wizards introduced, didn't really support. No one wanted it. It wasn't clear who the market was. Like, it's standard Commander, and like standard players don't want to play that. Commander players don't want to play that. Like, maybe it's for limited players who can use their draft chaff or something. I don't know. Like, in paper, it never took off.
Right.
But on Arena, it's actually a pretty reasonably played format. I like it a lot. It can be fun. It's just a little bit weird in its positioning. But like in our case, so we had a couple reasons why it was on our radar, and then with this set, um, the set it was like wasn't really clear what it was going to be. It was
Right.
based off of Commander Legends Baldur Gate,
Yep.
but it was the online version, and there wasn't a lot of details around it. There's a lot of speculation that it was going to be some sort of Commander Legends like draft where you draft a commander. Uh, but like a lot of arena releases, there wasn't much information about that.
Right.
But then, because it was based on Commander Legends, this set is loaded with legends, and in particular, it has a specialized mechanic, which lets a red creature with specialized can be a red-white commander, a red-blue commander, a red-black commander, and it turned out that this was just the perfect setting to try the Brawl League. So, yeah, I think it was totally the right thing to do.
Yeah. Certainly
We had the
memorable.
idea,
Certainly memorable.
memorable, yeah. And one thing is, this set wouldn't have been interesting for a regular league. It was filled with reprints from Adventures in the Forgotten Realms, and so it would have been pretty boring to spend a full normal league there.
Right.
And also, like the set, this was one of the worst sets ever released.
Okay, let's just accept that first and foremost. Confused, mixed bag of a set thrown on Arena.
Poorly designed,
Very
poorly
strange.
developed, like ill-conceived mechanics.
Alchemy cards.
We're thinking of
Alchemy cards.
yeah, but then yeah, with a ton of reprints, and then leaving out good cards from Commander Legends Baldur's Gate, and just seemed like I don't know if the idea was rushed or it didn't have the budget or it wasn't given the right attention, but it was like such a messy product.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
if this had been a regular, normal league, it would have it would have been probably one of our least enjoyed leagues.
That's fair. I mean, as it was, this was a fairly poorly attended league for a 6 week league. It was one of our lowest main league offerings from this era. So 6 weeks of Brawl. How many players signed up? A mere 56. We should note briefly that the eventual win went to Sawyer, not his only win, but that was an important win for him. He triumphed in the end. And maybe Alchemy had a little bit to do with that. I mean, this was our only Alchemy league as well, the league where we embraced Alchemy cards. And let's talk a little bit about Alchemy cards because that's another thing that's going to trigger people. People are going to how did that happen? What happened when you played the Alchemy cards, Johnny? What's your review of the effect of Alchemy cards on our cherished and time honored league format?
I don't think it matters specifically whether a card is alchemy or not. What matters is a card fun? Is it well designed? Does it have good mechanics? And I think alchemy is a it sets people like just the word turns people off, but it's a really jumbled subject because you're talking about alchemy, the format.
Right.
On Arena, which people don't like, and they don't like how Wizards tries to force it on people.
Right.
Are we talking about online only cards,
Online only
which
cards is
people
where my
don't like?
head's at. Yeah.
Yeah, because then people say, well, it's not paper, it's not real magic.
Right.
But then, are we talking about alchemy mechanics? So there's some cards that are online only that are like playable in paper. Are those a problem? Not really. But then you have like these alchemy sets where they put out Duskmore and alchemy, and then what's that? People have issues with those, and then in general, these alchemy releases tend to have worse art than normal.
Yep.
They're clearly play tested less than normal, and
Yep.
there's individual card designs that are just awful and break sort of fundamental design rules of the game.
Yes.
And so being an online only card is fine, but the overall presentation of these things is the whole package is poor.
Right.
But there's individual cards that are amazing,
Can I tell
and it's just
you?
yeah,
Can I tell you like my takeaway memory? Perhaps my only clear and distinct memory of this league.
sure.
It was Raph dominating the main tournament with his goddamn polar bear commander. That every time he played it, he gets some sea monster, conjured into his hand, and then it was just a matter of everybody getting battered by sea monster after sea monster, to the point that it really. I watched a few games against Raph, and the frustration of all of his opponents, those who sort of joined chat at least, they were broken people. They were frustrated. They were sad. There was nothing they could do. I felt the same way, and it was just ridiculous how many good cards this already overstated polar bear. It's already like a 4/5, I think, for 4 mana, and then you can just use it to fish up more and more threats, bigger and better threats. Absolutely insane, absolutely abusable in the format, and I just remember it being absolutely oppressive to play against, and it definitely poisoned my impression of alchemy cards. I still probably haven't recovered fully from the experience, Johnny.
Yes, I mean this card definitely the boogeyman of the league. Just to go over its full abilities. So it's a 4 mana 4/5. It's called Oya Minaratuk Polar Werebear.
It rolls off the
It has
tongue.
hexproof. Yeah, it has hexproof if it hasn't dealt damage yet. When it does combat damage to a player, you make a food token. So it protects itself. It generates value.
Yep.
It's overstated because it's a 4/5, and then it says pay blue mana, sack of food, draft a card from his spell book, and when you do, add 3 blue mana. So it also ramps,
Yep.
and the cards from its spell book are things like Voracious Great Shark, which is the 5/4 flash counter an artifact or creature when it enters. There's Ruin Crab. There's Nazal Primal Tide, which is 7/7 like WinCon. There's Nadir Kraken,
Yeah.
which is one of the best cards in Theros Beyond Death.
Yeah.
There's Pursued Whale, which is a big 8/8.
Yeah. I mean,
And
the hits keep coming,
yeah,
right? There's nothing this card can't do.
and there's also like Riptide Turtle, which is a 2 mana 0/5. In case that's what you need, like because you draft a card, you look at 3 cards at random from the choice of 15, so you can always get what you need.
Yep.
And and so I think the interesting thing here is if we were playing a normal league, this card's going to exist. It'll be in people's decks, but they're only going to draw it, one in every 3 games.
Right.
So it'll be present, but sometimes you see it, sometimes you don't, because it's Brawl. This card starts in the command zone, and it's going to get cast every game. And if you destroy it, it's going to get cast a second time. And if you destroy it again, it's getting cast a third time.
Yeah.
And so you lose the variance, and you get much more repetitiveness, which aggravates poor design of the card.
Yeah.
If you see a card once per match, big deal. If you have to see it 6 times in a match,
Yeah.
it's a different story.
It's the perfect storm of completely overstated, broken cards, a format that is unloved in paper, that when you combine with those cards creates an absolutely dismal experience for anybody that doesn't have that card.
And it's funny. I think I tried to think of other comparisons to what happened here, and the closest I could get to was Strixhaven and Mascot Exhibition, where you have Mascot Exhibition. It's a powerful card. It's colorless. Everyone can run it, and it's a lesson. So whenever someone learns, and everyone's going to have multiple learning cards in their deck, you can go get that. And it's by far the best lesson.
Right.
And so you end up in a situation where if someone has mascot exhibition, they're casting it every single game,
Right.
and we
Once.
saw that reflected once, yeah.
If they can get to
And
seven
but we
mana.
saw,
If they get to seven
if they get to
mana.
7 mana,
Right.
but we saw it reflected where people who had mascot exhibitions definitely did better than average.
Sure.
I believe Zeke had two, and he finished at the top of the standings.
Yeah.
And that's a card we actually discussed banning for that league, which we didn't, and that we didn't ban it for that league kind of set the precedent of
Yeah.
we're just never going to ban any cards for any league.
Right.
And so when we got to this league, Baldur's Gate, and there's some talk about certain powerful commanders. It's like, we're not going to ban them. We don't ban cards for a league.
Yeah, and believe me, like I did suffer from that card in particular, and maybe a couple of others, but I'm still glad that we have that policy. I'm glad we let people play with their toys, and I don't think that I would have this strong of a memory of this tournament if it weren't for that damn bear. Like, it sticks out, and mascot exhibition sticks out from Strixhaven as well. But I don't think that whatever suffering that mascot exhibition caused in the minds and hearts of our player base, they paled in comparison to what happened here. And still I'm glad, even after all that, I'm glad we didn't ban the thing because we hadn't played with the cards yet. We hadn't seen what they could do. I think we got to give things room to breathe, and sometimes we have to, as you talked about before with Strixhaven, we have to learn our lessons. And I think we learned a lesson here. Don't do alchemy in combination with brawl. That seems like lesson number one.
See, that I'm not sure about. I think
Okay.
like the issue of polar bear could have come up in any set. Like whatever the best legendary creature is
Sure.
would have been in every command zone it could have been in, and would have dominated every game. And so I think this is maybe a situation where it gets a little bit conflated, and you know, Amyanavratok, polar werebear. Like it's the worst year, and we get to see how bad it is. But I think every set has some outlier cards that are just way too powerful compared to everything else that's around them.
Right. So is it the case, would you say that
So
as a general principle, would you say that Brawl, therefore, is probably a bad format for a 6-week league experience? Maybe that's the lesson here.
yeah, well, I think 6 weeks is a lot because Brawl is has a lot less variance than
Right.
Sealed,
Right.
and so repeat matches, you kind of know what's going to happen. Best of three, the third game is going to go like one of the first two games, um, and yeah, sometimes when you pair up and you see what the other player's commander is, you have a really good idea of how it's going to turn out. So yeah, I think 6 weeks is a lot because of the reduced variance in the decks and in the games.
For further reducing variance and making decks more powerful, we started out with more starting packs than usual. We started with 9 packs of Alchemy Horizons Baldur's Gate, right, to give people lots of options for their commanders and to give them the tools they need to sort of get down to 2 colors if they wanted to. And also
Because
we gave them a seeded promo pack, right?
Singleton
Yeah,
was a big factor there.
of course.
Like any repeat commons were dead cards.
Yeah. Plus, we gave them a seeded promo pack. We got to talk about this. So, at the beginning of the league, we gave each player a 3-card pack, which included a copy of Arcane Signet, a copy of Command Tower, and a copy of Mind Stone. So, really, all of the enabling for commanders was just kind of already given to you. So, really, if you take out, say, the 40 out of 100 lands and these 3 cards, you only had 57 slots to fill in the end, right? No, wait.
I think we did 60 card decks.
We did 60 card decks. My bad. Yeah. So let's say with the 24 lands and the 3 starting bonus cards, half your deck pretty much comes pre-built. So you're just adding from those 9 packs, you're really only adding 30 cards. So the odds were pretty good that you're going to get some good stuff going up there. But to further make sure that we had super powerful decks, we also had the silver bullet rule. So let's talk about that. A silver bullet is defined in our rule set as the following. We can go shopping for 3 cards of our choice in case you didn't want to open up a punishment pack from any historic set, right? That was one option. Open up a punishment pack from any set that you like, go on for it. Or you can choose 3 cards. And again, the way we did silver bullets here might have been particularly egregious. So you got to pick 1 uncommon and 2 common arena rarity cards. So no rare mythic rares and no legendary creatures were allowed, but otherwise it was unrestricted what you picked up. So you could really hone in on your strategy and really go to town by tricking out your deck along a certain direction. We should probably talk a little bit about that as well, because that was, I mean, this tournament was an unholy alliance of mechanics and formats and cards which are deeply unpopular with the player base. Let's talk about silver bullets and what they do to a format. So we normally have a sealed format, right, where all your cards are randomly added to your pool. So you find stuff in the deck and you the packs, and you kind of just build up from there. And it's all spontaneous. It's all like open what you can, right? Here, silver bullets were basically crafting cards. We're taking the sealed format and turning it into something more like a quasi-constructed format. What do you think of this mechanic, Johnny? I know you're a fan of it, so maybe here's your chance to defend it.
That's great. Perfect. That's exactly what this league needed. And I've heard it criticized.
Yeah.
And people say it didn't work or it's the worst thing about the league. And I think that's missing the point. So
Okay, here we go. The defense.
the question is, are we playing a sealed league with commanders, or are we playing brawl league? Now, if we want to play sealed league with commanders, there shouldn't be silver bullets. But I don't think that's what this league should have been or wanted to be, because then that's just really crappy sealed for you. Yeah, you lose the variance. You have your opponent always has a bomb you can't answer. You have color restrictions, so you can't get creative with your build. Where on the other hand, Brawl League is, the unique format we want to try, and I think it's important to really step into it. And if you're going to do a Brawl League, you should do a Brawl League. Don't make it a crappy version of Sealed. And to do a Brawl League, you should have, give people Arcane Signet and Command Tower and Mind Stone, which are the 3 most played cards in Brawl. Just get that out of the way. Just communicate, like, hey, this is it. This is what we're doing. And then the silver bullets are important because, so Sealed is about getting, 90 cards and trying to fit them together. It's a bunch of puzzle pieces, and you're trying to figure out how to make a picture with them and how to assemble 23 of them, or in our case, 36 of them to make a deck.
Yeah.
But Brawl is about, you take your commander, your 1 card, and then you build it around that. And you take whatever you want, and you make your streamlined, focused deck that takes advantage of your commander's abilities. And so, you can't do that playing Sealed. You can't do that opening random packs. You gotta have silver bullets so that you can craft your deck to make something interesting happen, to lean into your commander, to make your commander work.
Okay, so
And I think that's it. That needs silver bullets.
just extending your logic here. Are you saying that we should just do constructed in that case, right? If we play Brawl, we should be playing constructed formats. We should have done a constructed league instead of doing a sort of, again, like as you called it, a bastard format, which is somewhere between Brawl and Sealed League with commanders.
Yeah, I mean, I think we landed in a good spot with it. You could do totally constructed, but I think doing totally constructed is getting a little too far away from AGL and what AGL is about. So, it's like it is a spectrum, and then different people are gonna have different lengths they want to go on that spectrum. And some people would say, well, this is too far away from AGL and opening punishment packs and developing your deck. But in this case, doing a Brawl League, I think it's silver bullets are totally justified. However, I think there can be a question of the exact quantities, where
Right.
we said two commons and one uncommon per loss. Maybe it could have been, add three commons or one uncommon, or it could have been, you're in the first half of the league, you add two commons and one uncommon. In the last half of the league, you can start adding rares, or who knows, depending what loss you're at, you're allowed a different mix. There's different ways it could be tweaked. I don't know if we were in the ideal spot, but the principle of silver bullets, I think, was essential.
Okay. Well, I mean, I remember that there were some auto includes. Maybe you remember more carefully than I do what those were, but it did seem like some dominant strategies snuck their way in. Do you care to talk about what people defaulted to with regard to the number and rarity of silver bullets that we allowed in this tournament?
So it was two commons and one uncommon that were allowed, and the most picked common was Llanowar Elves, with 19 people out of that, out
Yep.
of, we said, 54 players.
Pretty big percentage.
Then it's pretty big percentage, and that makes sense. That's a staple of the format. There was Inspiring Overseer, had 15 copies, Essence Scatter, 13 copies, Ornithopter Paradise, Elysian Caryatid, Snakeskin Veil, Disdainful Stroke, Feed the Swarm, Bonus Protection were next few cards. On the uncommon side, by far Washaway
Yes.
was number one with 14 people.
This
But again,
card.
that's maybe the best card in Brawl, or that's auto include for every blue deck. So that makes sense that it's there. We're playing Brawl, Washaway's in there, and then after that, there's Xander's Wake, Tireless Provisioner, Menagerie Curator, Whirler Rogue, Soul Herder were the next few. But
Yeah.
after that, you just get down to cards that are taken by five or less people.
For
So
those that don't know, what does Wash
a
Away
fair amount
do?
of Wash Away is a counter spell for 3 mana, or it costs 1 mana if it's targeting something that's not cast from hand, I guess. So if someone casts their commander, you can counter it for 1 mana.
Right. So you were in the middle of a different thought there.
And
Sorry.
yeah, I was gonna say uncommons felt like there was quite a bit of diversity in what was taken. Really quickly, looks like about 175 different uncommons were taken
Right.
throughout the league, and about 290 different commons were taken. And so, yeah, of course, there are staples. Certain cards are taken more than others. I tried to predict them at the beginning of the league. What was the top card of each color, and I was pretty accurate.
Yeah.
In red, a braid was the most taken card. I can't parse the rest right now.
That's fine.
But
But the point is you were right.
yeah,
Yeah.
so I think there's 2 points in that.
Yeah.
There were cards taken that are staples of the format, but then also, depending what your commander was, you could find the right card for you. Like every green deck wants Llanowar Elves,
Yeah.
but if you're playing Polar Bear, well, what are the green cards that make food? Whereas if you're playing, uh, you know, some a green ramp deck, or like a commander that ramps, now you're looking for, 6 drops in green. What are
Yeah.
those?
You know what's kind of
You know,
funny about the cards that you mentioned, like the most popular cards being things like Wash Away, Essence Scatter, and Llanowar Elves. You know what colors those are? Those are all in blue green.
green blue.
We're back in the bear territory. So the most popular ads are also in colors that's the cards that support that would fight that the best are in those colors already. So, gosh, you're giving me flashbacks again, kind of PTSD, kind of flashbacks to the league, and
And yeah, the best way to stop a powerful commander is counter it before it resolves. So
yeah,
A
So
lot of
if
counter
you
spells.
if you weren't playing blue, you were in trouble in this league, I guess. Gosh, Johnny, what would we do differently if we did this today? Like, so looking back, right, we have oversized starting pools, seeded promo pack to support the themes and the format. We didn't allow planeswalkers to be commanders, which might have added a different wrinkle if we revisited that restriction that we added. We gave people a choice between silver bullets or historic packs. Looking back, what would have saved this league? What would have made it better? What would you do differently if we had to tackle this similar situation again? God forbid.
So one thing with this league is we couldn't generate uh, packs of Baldur's Gate for a technical reason
Yeah,
because of the way Booster Cure worked.
yeah,
So
I remember
having
that.
that ability would have been nice, so people could take packs from the actual set.
Although Johnny,
Um,
as we already gave them 9 packs and they can't use duplicates, so
but
the incentive to go back to the incentive to go back to Alchemy Horizons Baldur's Gate is pretty low, I would think.
actually, so one thing to do would be reduce the number of Baldur's Gate packs in the people's starting pool, and maybe allow them, like, say, here's your 6 starting packs of Baldur's Gate. Now you can pick 3 other packs of your choice.
Right.
Which just doing that would introduce a pretty big diversity of commanders. The worst ones we would have seen 1/3 less.
Yes.
So that's one thing. Another thing could be just have the only uncommons as commanders rule, which has been something that I don't know if we ever used for like our like plane chase weeks.
We
But
did.
I've
Yeah.
done side events with that, and that works pretty well. You just lower the power of the command zone a little bit.
Did you watch the
And I
finals of
think
the recent Foundations League?
I did not see that.
That
Sorry.
was that was all done in the brawl format, using the 10 commanders from Dominaria United, the 10 uncommon commanders. So yeah, that's part of current design practice, is to sort of make sure that brawl
Yeah,
has brawl with guardrails. Let's call it.
yeah, and I think that makes a lot of sense to just lower the power of commanders a little bit and make what's in your deck matter a bit more,
Yeah.
and kind of force people off into more different directions instead of just like what's the best commander? Okay, I'm running that. And I think a third thing we could have done is maybe boost punishment packs a little bit. Maybe something like if you take a punishment pack, you get 1 common silver bullet.
Right.
Just something where I think we were a little bit lopsided in the number of silver bullet picks people made versus punishment packs, and maybe they could have been blended a little bit.
Right.
I'm gonna note though the most common punishment packs people took were Dominaria, which oh no, sorry, Eldraine, Ikoria, and Crimson Vow. And I'm thinking like Ikoria's up there. It's got to be people fishing for companions.
Yes.
And actually going back to looking at similar leagues or situations like this, where with having these commanders, does make me think of Ikoria League, and some people, including yourself, starting with Jaruda
Hmm.
in the command zone,
Oh yeah.
and yeah, there was much more controlled because not everyone has a companion, but definitely the effect of them for the decks that have them
Oh gosh, I
is
remember in a Korea League. I don't know if we discussed this properly, but Arena didn't have the revised or corrected version of the cards for the first few weeks of league play. So your companion could come in without the 3 mana surcharge. So
you just cast it.
what a huge boost for the first half of the league to have that kind of on your side. I remember very clearly. And then Arena got changed to update the restrictions that Wizards imposed, and then Companions got a little less good, but still pretty awesome, frankly.
Well, busted. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to highlight though some of the good aspects of this league,
Yeah, please.
and just, like some of the other things that were going on.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's like Polar Bear was a boogeyman. There's also Laziel, which is like a 3/6 double strike. That's impossible to deal with. That was a problem. But for myself, I had a really good experience with my deck where I had Ambergris, which is a 3/2 haste that has specialize. So I chose to run red white and has this cool effect of once you specialize it, one of the attacks discard your hand, draw two cards, and all your creatures get +1/+1 equal to the number of cards you've discarded this turn.
Right. Wow. Game ender.
And so I ended up building. So it's a game ender, but it's like so for my deck. Like, what do I want to do with this deck? And I ended up making a red white go wide madness graveyard value kind of deck. Because I'm always discarding my hand, so I need to
Right.
have cards with madness or get value once I've discarded these cards. But then I also want to go wide, and then like how does what's going on here? How does this deck work? And it was totally unique deck. Never played another deck like it in League. I've actually made the deck in Brawl, and like in the public queues on Arena, put it there. Never run into another deck doing the same thing. And for me, that was a great experience, and an interesting puzzle. Definitely had opponents who had never seen it happen or know what to expect. And just all of a sudden, all my 1/1s are attacking as 6/6s, and it's lethal on turn 4. Or, you know, um, and I'm looking at some of these top 8 deck lists. We have Justin Code Pigeon, who had Jahira, who's a 2 mana specialized green creature, and so he has this deck list posted, and he has so few 2 drops because his deck doesn't need them. He has this commander that he's going to cast for 2 every game. And so his deck's focused on 1 drops and 3 drops. And so, the direction that he ended up taking is so much different than what other people are doing. And, special for silver bullets, okay, ignore 2 drops. What's the best 3 drop or the best 1 drop for him? Sawyer, who you mentioned won the league, had Jan Jansen, which is a Mardu commander that sacrifices artifact creatures to make 2 treasure tokens, or sacrifice non-creature artifacts, like treasure, to make 2 construct tokens. And so he just has this weird engine deck of making trinkety eggs type artifacts, sacking them to make 1/1s, doing things with the 1/1s, ramping with the treasures, getting sacrifice triggers. And there were a couple of Jan Jansen decks in the league, and they all played so much different than what anyone else in the league is doing, and so much different than any other league deck I've ever seen. And yes, Jansen was one of the best commanders, but it didn't feel as oppressive as Polar Bear, I think, because it on its own was winning games. It was just this like piece in your machine.
Yeah, I do remember Jan
Um,
Jansen being prevalent, but not terrible to play against. But I remember it was a very popular choice of commander. You'd see it pretty often, being played by people. So that brings back another memory too. I mean, to your point about what's good about these experiences. I mean, as you point out, I think one of the benefits of not having constructed tournaments, right, to have like, as you put it, like sealed with a commander, is that you still have that dimension of sealed where you're putting together strategies on the fly. You're trying to find combination cards. You end up playing decks you wouldn't normally play. Like you're not just copy pasting the best brawl decks, from the internet and having and seeing where that goes. That's interesting in its own right, but that's not really what this tournament series does well, I think. I know exactly the feeling you described of having a good league deck evolve organically, to have it end up coming out as something strikingly original and becoming emotionally attached to the result. And I'll tell you something. This Pioneer Masters League just wrapped, and I got eliminated in week 6. I love my deck, and I'm still taking it out for a run in timeless play, just to feel the old interactions churning, and I still win a pretty good number of games with it. And I feel every time I do win in the timeless format where people are doing constructed decks, I feel a little bit of pride. I feel a little bit of like, yeah,
yeah,
that's right. That's a league earned deck. And I don't even cheat by adding on like add-ons after the fact, right? I don't say, well, I play the deck as it died in League with only that card set. And I don't know if you've had this experience as well. Do you still keep your old decks in your on the Arena client, and do you ever take them out for a run after the fact?
Only my Baldur's Gate deck,
Okay.
where well, during that league, I did for sure, and to test out potential silver bullets,
Yeah.
I filled it up because you have to have a 100 card deck in the arena queues. But I kept it fair with the same rares that I had, didn't add any of those, and just yeah, trying out silver bullets, and I crushed people. I had like a record of 50 wins to 20 losses or something. Like the deck was that's like it did better than any other deck I've ever played in Brawl. And now and again, yeah, I come back to it. And just last night, in preparation for today,
Oh.
I made a new Ambergris deck without any restrictions, and I played it a couple times, and I part of this is like this league was such an outlier
Mm-hmm.
compared to everything else,
Yeah.
and because of that, its flaws are highlighted, but there's also benefits from it that no other league has had, and it has high highs and has low lows, which I think is fine, and I think it's you know much better than if it had just been a normal league with this awful, awful set.
Right. I think sometimes we have to swing for the fences, right? And I think that
Yeah,
even if it results in something that is slightly suboptimal, I do think that the unique experiences that we had in this tournament and the lessons learned from it still, we still carry on some of that legacy till today. And I think the people that played in this tournament, like yourself and myself, we won't forget it. The good and the bad and the ugly are all there up front in a way that like other tournaments that were less ambitious just don't shine out like this Baldur's Gate does.
sure.
Now that being said, very memorable, but so is being in a car accident, a horrible car accident. It should be noted, Johnny, that we have never gone back to an alchemy league. We've never gone back to an all brawl league to my knowledge or from my recollection. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we've ever done those two things again. And we've only sparingly done things like with silver bullets, and we brought brawl back for maybe like a week during plane chase, but never as a main mechanic for any tournament. So maybe that a lot of the lessons that we learned here were negative, but I do think it is important we do try these from time to time. You take a big swing, sometimes it's a big miss. There are still good things about it, as you point out. Overall, though, if you had to say give this league a grade, what would you give it?
Like 9 on 10. I don't know. It's one of my favorites for sure.
Really?
And it's really just like if you took the three worst design cards in this set and removed them, it would have been such a different experience for a lot of people. And it's really just unfortunate that like a small handful of cards, that people had in their command zone were awful. There were so many other decks that were just fine.
Yeah.
All the uncommon commanders were just fine.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
but of course, yeah, it's the boogeyman. It's a shadow over it. But I don't think that spoils uh, all the other fun and all the other benefits.
I agree with you, and I think that's a perfect place to leave the vodcast, Johnny. Let's tie this up with a nice bow. Thank you so much, not only for all your previous service on the LC and coming up with, helping come up with tournaments like this, but also taking the time to reminisce with me today about the legacy of Baldur's Gate.
Before we end, though, can I ask what's your grade for this league?
Whew.
It sounds like it's gonna be a lot lower than 9 on 10.
Well, okay. Well, I'm going to go with the academic grading. I'll give it a letter grade. So looking at like it's strikingly original. So it's not a failure. It wasn't copied from anything, right? Like it's kind of like this is like the student at the back of the class that never speaks to anybody, and when you ask him for the essay at the end of the semester, half of it is like diagrams and it's sort of in undecipherable scrawl. You can kind of see in the vague strokes what he was up to, but you have to do a lot of guesswork to fill in the blanks, and the overall effect is not very palatable. But you can see moments of genius in there, and you think there's something there. There's something there, Johnny. I'm not going to fail this student. I'm going to give this student some encouragement. I'm going to give this student enough rope that they can take another class and take another shot, make their ideas, clear and distinct for themselves and everybody else. I'm probably going to give this a C plus.
All right. I totally understand that reasoning too. I've been that student a few times in my life. And like you said, though, yeah, we've never done this before. So of course, yeah, not everything's perfect. The balance between silver bullets might be a bit off. If we were to do it again, I'm sure there'd be a couple of tweaks to make it work a lot better, whatever they were. But yeah, and it's inspired some side events I've done where we've gone kind of sort of like quasi-constructed with like serious deck building restrictions based around the sets that we're looking at, and those events have all been fun and interesting. So it hasn't inspired a full league, but it has inspired side events at least.
Are you hopeful for a return of this mechanic? Are you saying full-length campaign brawl league 2025?
No, it just needs the right set at the right time. If we get, if Commander comes to Arena, or if there's the next Commander Legends or Commander Master set gets brought to Arena, then yes, it could make sense. But we'll see.
All right, Johnny, that wraps up this episode of Leagues Behind. Thanks so much for joining us and giving your input. It's valuable perspective, and I really enjoyed looking back on this one. It's different. It hits you different. Join us next week when we'll talk about Player of the Year 2022. Thanks for watching.